We all have our favorite villains, right? The ones that just get under your skin and stay there, long after the credits roll. But what is it that makes them so unforgettable? Today, we're going to dig into that exact question by looking at two absolute masterclasses in villainy: a devil straight out of classic literature and a corrupted god that feels terrifyingly modern. So what's the secret sauce? Is it about how powerful they are? Their grand evil plan? Well, the real answer is actually a lot more personal than that. Turns out it has everything to do with us. And there it is. That's the core idea for this whole explainer. See, the greatest villains, they're not just some bad guy we need to see defeated. They're mirrors. They show us what we could become. They reflect our own ambitions, our own desires, just twisted into something dark. Now, to really see how this works, we're going to break down two incredible examples. First up, we have the devil himself, Mephistopheles, who kind of evolved from this simple monster into a super complex psychological opponent. And then we'll look at the superhero turned tyrant, Kid Miracleman, a literal god who's brought down by his own very human ego. All right, let's start with a character who's been haunting literature for centuries. Mephistopheles is the ultimate deal maker. But his character went through this radical change that totally reshaped how we think about evil, shifting it from some external threat to a battle happening inside our own heads. The whole story runs on this one simple idea, the Faustian bargain. It's the engine that drives the entire narrative. You get everything you've ever dreamed of: power, knowledge, you name it. The only catch? The price is, well, it's everything, your soul. And this is where it gets really interesting. For more than 200 years, Mephistopheles was just a straightforward monster, the bad guy. But then, in the early 1800s, a writer named Goethe basically turned the whole character inside out. The villain wasn't just some demon lurking outside anymore. He became a reflection of the hero's own soul. This table really lays out that evolution perfectly. Just look at the role. He goes from a one-dimensional malevolent villain to a multifaceted psychological foil. His motivation isn't just about snatching a soul anymore. It's about reflecting Faust's own inner darkness. It's a complete flip from an external enemy to an internal one. The original version was basically a walking cautionary tale, a direct moral allegory. He was the sinister tempter, the relentless pursuer, the guy who brokers the deal. There was zero gray area here. He was evil, plain and simple. But now, compare that to Goethe's version. He's playing a much more sophisticated game. He's not just tempting you with money. He's tapping into your deepest existential cravings. He's a sharp, cynical voice in your ear, challenging everything you believe in. And most importantly, he becomes that dark mirror, giving a voice to all the ambitions and despair the hero is trying to suppress. I love this quote. It just nails the new dynamic. He's not a monster anymore. He's a banker. He gives you this dangerous high-interest loan on your soul, knowing full well you're gonna default. Damnation isn't some epic battle, it's just a tragic foreclosure. Okay, let's fast forward to a villain who feels distinctly modern, one born from the world of superheroes. Kid Miracleman shows us exactly what happens when you give absolute, godlike power to a person with a very human and very flawed ego. So to really get Kid Miracleman, you have to know this one crucial piece of their backstory. He and the hero, Miracleman, find out that their entire heroic childhood was a lie, just a fabricated memory planted by a secret government project. This reveal, this stolen truth, is the fork in the road that sends them down two completely different paths. And this right here is the heart of his villainy. It's not some supernatural evil or some grand philosophy. It is simply the terrifying contentment that comes when a petty, arrogant person gets absolute power and never has to face any consequences. And this profile really shows you what that looks like. His power leads to cold corporate dominance. It's fueled by primal aggression, and it's all built on that one defining flaw: his ego. The guy had godlike powers, and what did he do with them? He became a ruthless CEO. What makes him such a fantastic villain is that he is the perfect ideological opposite of the hero. You have Miracleman, who's on this pained, difficult search for truth, and then you have Kid Miracleman, who is just smugly satisfied with the power he already has. It's a battle between purpose and pure, petty tyranny. So we have our two villains, the devil who became a mirror and the man who became a god tyrant. Let's put them side by side for a second and see what they really represent. This chart just brings it all together so clearly. For Mephistopheles, evil comes from internal psychological complexity. He's the mirror.
For Kid Miracleman, it's the unchecked human ego. He's the warning. So you've got these two powerful but different themes: the timeless, complicated nature of the human soul versus the very modern terror of absolute power.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Well, when you look at how these characters changed and what they represent, a really clear pattern starts to emerge about what makes a villain truly last. Ultimately, the villains that really stick with us, the ones that resonate the most, are the ones who stop being simple monsters and start becoming reflections of us. They tap into our own internal struggles, our ambitions, our desires, our egos, and they force us to take a hard look at the darkness we just might find inside ourselves. And that leads us to one last big question. If the most powerful villains are really just a mirror held up to society, what do the villains we're creating today say about who we are right now? Something to think about.